Okay, guys, welcome to this Monday's Wealth Creation Show. Today we are, well, Jim's live from London. I think are you travelling back today, Jim?
Yeah, traveling back tonight. Yep.
Yeah. So, but he's joining us today, and we're going to cover looking at how to really create an environment for success and the fundamental aspects of that. And we're going to have a wee chat about a few things, and I've got a few topics I think, but we'll kind of just keep it to kind of referring back to a lot of what your journey, Jim. I'm really interested on kind of some of the points in here and how they might reflect on how you have met different people and found inspiration from people, and how that's helped you on your journey, and how you created that environment around yourself that ultimately resulted in your own success. Because it's always good and to hear from people that are already successful and still on their journey as well. The environmental influences, I think, everything that you do. I mean, everything that you do really has an influence on what you are going to achieve in your own journey. And I think around about 70% of your success depends on the people, the events, the sources of information that you have, and how and the things that you have surrounding you. And they're all the things that I think really motivate you to help you grow and ultimately succeed. Or on the flip side, if they're not positive or influential things, if they're negative things, they could really stop your development. And I'm sure you'll agree with that, Jim, that there's things that could really hold
Yeah,
you back.
let's break it down a bit at a time though. The first point about, creating an environment for you to
Yeah,
grow. So how does it create an environment to grow? And this is probably the perfect place to do that. This is Little Venice, if
yeah,
anybody doesn't know, in Paddington Basin. And Little
uh-huh,
Venice, if you don't know, was the birthplace of the Virgin Group, where the Virgin Group actually
right,
operated out a canal boat originally with Richard
uh-huh,
Branson and his team, and some of his core team are still with them today. So there's no better place to talk about the entrepreneurial and being creative and creating the right environment as being here right now, because this is the major success of one of the most inspirational billionaires in the world.
yeah. Who is Richard Branson, if no one's quite sure?
Well, yeah, Virgin Group, Richard Branson. I think
Yeah.
it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, and that leads me nicely to one of the first things that I had on the list to talk about, and it was looking out for people who could really inspire and motivate you and give you that inspiration, and having a person or even a few people around you. I know obviously um, a lot of people maybe don't have that, and it's how to look out for that and find those really important people that align with what you want to achieve or your views and things as well, and really look at what they do and analyze what they do, and and in essence replicate it or do your own version of it. And I'm sure over the years, I mean, I know you speak quite a lot about standing on the shoulders of giants and taking inspiration and things from people that are more successful than you. I mean, how important is that? Yeah, obviously until you get the technical side of things sorted. But as I was saying, obviously to help you overcome challenges and difficulties and things, it's really good to learn from people that have already trodden that path. If you are in if you're in the same on the same journey or trying to find the same result as they have already achieved, you could learn so much from somebody that's already done the same as what you're planning to set out on your journey. So it's really important to find these people, find them, and surround yourself with them, and then really, like I say, learn from what they've done and what the mistakes they've possibly made in the past as well. Did you hear me okay now, Jim?
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I was just saying, we were talking about people that could inspire you, and I made a reference to you have said quite a lot in the past about standing on the shoulders of giants and learning from people that are more successful than you, and really replicating what they do in order to excel in your own journey. And I mean, how I was just asking you how important it is to have these types of people, and surround yourself with these types of people and learn from them.
I think it's a case that Einstein once said, "You will be where you are in the next 5 years by the people you associate with and the books you read." and it's always been the case. These things never change. The basic fundamentals and the core principles of success and wealth creation never
Yeah.
change. All it is what you're doing, either the service or the product changes as a result. But the basic core principles are always the same anyway. You do it's like a manufacturing process. You do the same thing in the manufacture of something every single time to create that goods or services. But and then when you change the goods or services, it's more or less the same processes again. You know, it's the same thing over and over again every single time. So if you realize something works and it works extremely well, why would you stop replicating it?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the same as well. I mean, obviously, we're on social media right now. And if you think about people, I mean, obviously, people want to have a bigger social media presence and things nowadays. So, I mean, the best thing to do would be to look at social media and maybe digital marketing professionals and things, and really follow their advice, read their blogs, and look at what they're doing in order to create your own social media presence. And that's ultimately, I mean, when we first started out with video and things, we went and learned for people that were excelling in that and took what they were, especially yourself, Jim. I mean, you run where you're still doing your daily lives every day and run with what they showed us to do and expanded on that. And that's how we are sitting on this today, doing what we're doing, the wealth creation.
So I think the most important thing is I don't go out my way to actually create any massive audiences or create anybody else or get people to follow me or anything like that. You know, just say what I say, and if I think if content is worth something to someone else, then I'll provide that content. I'll put it online. If somebody enjoys it, then fantastic. They enjoyed it. I just like doing it. So I'm not doing it for any specific purpose to attract people, attract investors, or attract people to what we're doing. I just like doing it, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I think once you understand that and you enjoy what you do, then that's fantastic. Whereas a lot, some people go out their way to get on board the professional marketeers and they pay them a fortune to constantly market for them and build social presence for them. But what all they're doing is they're just creating a false environment. And the people following them are actually people that are not even engaging with their brand. So there's no surprise when they disappear off the radar in 5 or 10 years' time.
Yeah, it's a lot more. And I know from our perspective, it's about sharing what you know and sharing your knowledge and sharing your experiences and seeing who aligns with that and who interacts with that. And ultimately, then that's fine. And if you could help people along on their journey by sharing that or sharing your experiences or giving them advice or pointing them in the right direction, that's what creates the right environment. And in my opinion, what's that, the boat?
It's quite interesting. The pod boat is a podcast boat for pop-ups and podcasts to create. So you obviously live streaming services, and it's got, see on the air, sitting right there.
Oh, yeah, on there, yeah.
So it's obviously that they must hire it out to people that want to do podcasts, and they can just come here on the boat. I mean, these boats only cost about 180 grand. I'm saying only cost. You've obviously got the moving costs as well. But when you think about the logic of that, I mean, for 180 grand, to stay here in Little Venice is nothing.
That is nice.
And the ongoing cost as well is nothing as well to be in the more or less in the centre of London. You just pop onto the tube at Paddington or Edgware Road, and you're within minutes everywhere else centrally. So what a fantastic location as an incubator to start a business. And if you work remotely, then why not here? If that's the case, I think that's the first time I've actually promoted something outside of Fife.
No, that's good stuff, and it aligns with what we're talking about just now. Obviously, social media and content and things as well. Podcasts. We obviously what we're doing today gets processed into a podcast for people to listen to on the go and things as well. So but yeah, social media is a great way of creating that environment that you expect people to react with you and interact with you, should I say. So that's really good. I do think, though, I mean, that's obviously all involved with looking at the people who inspire you or how you inspire other people and creating that environment for success. The next point I was going to come on to, and I think it's really important. I know it's really important, and I know you'll agree with me here. And I've put in a wee bullet point about double checking information, but it's really all about critical thinking. And it's one of the key skills that you really need to acquire. And if you don't have it to work on in order to be successful, and if you've not picked it up during your educational years at school or whatever, find somebody that's going to teach you and put you in that mindset where you could have that ability to have critical thinking and a critical path of thinking about things. You've taught me quite a lot of that over the years, Jim, because it's not something that I always had or was taught at school. No one's taught that at school, I don't think, to an extent. I mean,
Yeah.
critical thinking and planning, Jim, is so important for any successful journey.
Well, it's critical path analysis, isn't it? And it's fundamental to mathematics, and also for any sort of planning. You need to understand what needs to be done first in order to do the next thing. But you also need to understand what can be done at the same time in the same process as other things getting done. So the time, instead of, look at, for example, you've got maybe 5 or 6 things that took 20 minutes each. So 5 or 6 things that took 20 minutes each in that process, they took 20 minutes each. But you could then do the whole 5 things within 20 minutes itself, because maybe all the jobs can be done at the same time. So what was originally 100 minutes worth of time ended up being done in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's critical path analysis. That's critical path thinking.
Yeah.
And once you understand the fundamentals of that, especially when you put it in terms of buy-to-let strategy and in terms of property investing, then you understand the whole formula and how you could actually more or less super accelerate your wealth creation to a finite amount of time rather than actually it lasting for ages. It's amazing how many people take so long to implement a strategy for wealth creation, especially when it comes to property investment, when in actual fact the processes and systems in property investment are so clinically mapped out that they can be all done. Take for a classic example, now I'm buying 2 properties off a landlord just now. Now, let me think about the processes. So the first of all, I put the offer in. It was then accepted after negotiating it with the landlord. And they've got sitting tenants. And then I spoke to you about it because I knew I need to speak to you about it, about the fact that, what is the maximum rent for these properties? They're sitting at this rental value now. What do you think they can achieve? And then is there scope for actually increasing them in between? And yes, there was, because they were completely undervalued. So that tells me straight away I've got another margin to add on to that as soon as I buy them. But in the process, then I did the numbers. I spoke to Kesser at the same time, and I asked him what the possibility was in terms of the financing. Who would I get that from? How much that would cost, and what options are available, and what loan to value. And that was all done at the same time. So this was all done at the same time rather than actually going on one step at a time. Like, oh, let's put the offer and see if it gets accepted. And then you wait and wait and wait till that it gets accepted, which is about 3 weeks. Finally gets accepted, because that's what sometimes can happen for a lot of people, because they have to think about it back and forward. And then the solicitor sometimes might know he's on the ball, so that's why it could take around 3 weeks. And then at that time, then they go, okay, so how much can I get in lending? So see that that then happens next, and then there's another 2 weeks to find out what they say, and then the next steps out of that is then people come to you and say, well, what can I get for in terms of the rent? So see how that could all span out. Whereas I did that all at the same time and sent all these emails out to the same people. So I actually got an answer within 2 or 3 days for the whole lot. So what was effectively, for some people, I believe it or not, it could be 2 or 3 months, was done in 2 or 3 days. So I had an answer and I had a guaranteed result before I even got the offer accepted. So I went to Kesser, I put the offer in, I went to you at the same time, I got all the answers within 2 or 3 days, and I knew straight away where my numbers were, and we went ahead with the deal. And that's how you do it, and that's how you do it proactively, because it then gives the person an opportunity then to look somewhere else, or possibly look for someone else at the meantime. And once people have an offer accepted, they tend not to look for anybody else to buy the property, because they're now relieved at the fact that they've got the offer that they wanted, so they just switch off. And there's another golden opportunity to capitalise on that, especially if there's a lot of value added into it, with possible rent increases in the future in the short term, and also maybe a capital gain because you've bought them possibly at a below market value property.
Yeah, and do you know what that demonstrates as well is the fact that you've got the right people around you that you know, right, I'll ask this person about this person will give me an answer for that, and then you've got all the right answers. You know what you've worked out what your end result is going to be, or like you say, where you've got extra margins to add in,
Yeah.
and you've done that critical path analysis, and that
I'm
makes
always
you.
amazed at the amount of people that run onto social media and they go to the landlord groups and they immediately put all the situation down and they wait for everybody to respond to them. And you
Yeah,
get
I
about
know.
15 different answers, and I'm thinking, well, there is only one answer to this. And it's just, do the numbers work? Absolutely.
Yeah,
And the occupancy rate work? Yep. Is the financing fixed for a certain amount of time so it takes all out of the equation? Could it weather a storm if rent controls come in? As a result of that, yes, they can weather a storm. If the rent decreased, could it weather a storm there as well? In other words, could you still make money out of it? Absolutely. If the overheads went up a bit, would you be able to take that on board and absorb that cost? Absolutely. Well, what's stopping you then? And that's
yeah,
at the point where a lot of people actually say, "This sounds too good to be true. Why is nobody else doing it?" You ever heard
yeah,
that before? I
yeah.
wonder if
Oh,
that happened. I wonder if that happened with somebody that came before Bezos. That maybe thought to himself it was selling books in a garage and thinking to himself, "This seems too easy. There's got to be a catch to this. This selling books from a garage and actually making a huge fortune in it. No, this has to be really easy. There must be a catch." And then they've just left it and it fell by the wayside. And Bezos picks it up and runs with it, and now he's a multi-billionaire.
yeah. I think as well with the critical thinking in that as well. There's a lot of people, and I see it quite a lot, where people get really excited. They're overly optimistic.
Yeah.
They've not maybe done the numbers. They've got that false confidence that everything will be fine, but they've not actually checked it out. And then
Mm.
in the long run, they'll get their fingers burned because then the cracks start to appear because you've not taken into consideration expenses and costs and do you know, or stress tested your investment if it's a property investment and things. So you're caught out further down the line, and it could all fall apart without just having that preparation process and the critical path of thinking about how the deal is going to actually transpire and what result it's going to give you in the long run as well.
Yeah, the same thing applies to everything, no matter what deal it is, even if it's an investment in equities in a
Yeah.
company. That's no been stress tested, it's no been analysed, there's no exit strategy about how you can get out if anything goes wrong. None of that stuff's actually been there. I think that's then what talks for a lot of experience, though, and the fact that you need to
Mhm.
get educated from somebody that actually has done it before and understands all the pitfalls, so you can avoid them, rather than actually keep going through them all, and then working out. It's a classic example when people come to me and they say, "Do you know this happened and that happened and and this happened to me," and I'm thinking, God, if you just come to me and asked me, I would have told you that was going to happen.
Yeah. What I was going to say as well is, as everyone has their own opinions, and it's really up to you to check the facts that someone's presenting you with if you're taking advice from them. And then you really need to think, and you say this quite a lot, Jim, when you're getting advice from somebody, you need to look at them and ask yourself, do I want to be like this person, or are they actually successful enough that I want to learn from them? And a lot of
Yeah.
people don't do that and just take people's advice off the cuff and without any backup of their own success, and do you know, they make me totally broke, and they're advising you how to invest money.
I know, I know. I get a couple of times where people come on and say, "Who are you?" and all the rest of it, and what do you know? And I'm thinking, well, you
Yeah,
didn't need to listen to a word I'm
well,
saying then.
that's you don't.
It's entirely up to yourself. I couldn't care less. It's not going to increase my wealth about you being either rich or poor. It's not going to make any difference to me.
Mhm.
So I just didn't bother. I mean, it's the classic because they look. I mean, some people are really superficial and they look for things like, so where's your Aston Martin? Where's your Ferrari or Lamborghini? How come you're not living in a big house? Why you not living the dream? To be honest, I'm living the dream. But I tell you what,
Mhm.
I'm walking along at Little Venice on a Monday morning, and you're all at work.
Yeah. It's true, though. It really
So
is.
that says everything, doesn't it?
Mhm. Yeah, and I think, like you say, Jim, people might be listening to us now, and if they, I mean, like, you don't need to take our advice. I mean, we're not financial advisors or anything of the sort, but it's as we said, we create this kind of content to share experiences and pass on knowledge from our own journey. And if it helps people, then great. If we could put people in touch with the right people to help them on their journey, then great. But you don't need to listen. It's the same with everybody. But always be careful who you take your information from, and make sure that they are credible in their own right and what they're advising you about.
Do you think it's a little bit like some people want to see you ahead, but not ahead of them, and that
Yeah.
tends to be the people that don't actually become successful as a result, because they think it's, in order for me to succeed, you've got to fail. When in actual fact,
Hmm.
that's not how the system works. It's like anybody can be successful. You just have to choose to do it, and you just have to work at it to be the success. You have to pay the price you have to be in order
Yeah.
to be that successful at what you're wanting to do. You just have to keep paying that price. It's a classic example about, let's look at singers.
Hmm.
Taylor Swift, appeared from nowhere. But Taylor Swift's been going since 5 year old. It's
Yeah.
like she's been at this since 5 years old or something like that, since she popped out the popped out the womb. She's been going at it. And what age is she now? Maybe 25, 30 or thereabouts. It's like, so she's been doing it for about 25, 30 years. And everybody says, oh, she's an overnight success and look at this and all the rest of it. I was looking at AC/DC last night when we were watching them on the stage, and I
Yeah.
thought to myself, do you know they've been doing this for 50 years?
Hmm.
It's like, wow. And people, and then I says to Elaine, I says, do you just think at one point in time, Bon Scott and Angus Young were playing in pubs to 2 or 3 people, hoping that they would like their music. And now they're in a stadium in Wembley playing to 70,000 people. And
Yeah.
Angus Young, is literally holding a guitar solo for 20 minutes, a guitar solo for 20 minutes, playing anything he wants to play on that guitar and just giving it big time. And the whole crowd is going wild. Now,
Yeah.
50 years ago, do you think they sat in a pub and thought that would happen? Never in a
Definitely
million
not.
years. But they still had a dream that they would be something, and they loved what they did. So that's why they kept going in it, and then therefore I think it's the person that hangs around the most and keeps going all the time is the person that ultimately becomes the most successful in that area.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point, and I think it's true what you say about. I mean, I think a lot of successful people, once they become successful, and especially with famous people, because all of a sudden they're in front of you. Do you know they're on your social medias, they're on the TV and things, and you just think they've come from nowhere, but really they've had years and years of building and making mistakes and learning from them, and um, do you know it's taken them? They've got a long journey before all that. They didn't just step onto
Yeah,
the stage. Do you know? And it's the same with anybody's success. I mean, look at your own, Jim. I mean, you started God, very near 20 odd, nearly 30 years ago,
I
and
bought
built.
I bought one property
Yeah.
on Taylor Street in Aber Hill, which I still own
Mhm.
today, and
Yeah.
I bought it for £15,500. So I bought that one property as a result, and therefore, it was I just proved the model to myself, and I proved the system to myself. And as a result of proving that to myself, I then started to hone and develop it and make it more efficient. And then I mastered a blueprint for financial freedom. That was
Yeah.
it, really.
And just repeated that. Yeah.
Just repeated it. There's a common phrase that comes along, a rinse and repeat. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I suppose that's what I did. Um, yeah, I just kept doing the same thing. It's like a washing machine. It just kept doing the same thing all the time. No, that was laundering money, by the way. But it's effectively that's it. It's just a
Yeah.
program in a washing machine. It's like a program for financial freedom, and you turn it to which dial you want, like 1, 2, 3, or 4, depending on what
Yeah.
level of success you want, and plug yourself in the system, and you do the work that's necessary in order to get that result. And it's only a matter of time and effort that and you'll end up with that result that you want.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a great analogy
Yeah.
for what I've done. And there's another person come along and they're wanting to offload another, I think, 9 properties. And I'm going through these numbers now as well. And I know my
Mhm.
purchase price as a result of that. So when I go back to them, I'm going to have to say my numbers work at that, and that's it really. So if we're not at that, we can't do the deal.
And how important is that to stick to you've done your numbers, this is where it works for you. How important is it to stick there?
Well, I want to make sure I'm in business.
Yeah.
there's no point in running out and buying a whole load of properties
And overpay for them.
Yeah, and overpay for them, and the prospect that you never know, you might get a rent increase in the future, and you're gonna sit and take a loss for all that time, in order to try and get the numbers to work later on. It's like, no, I wouldn't be taking that risk at all, because if the economy takes a turn, that's out of your hands completely. Then you're gonna pay the price for that, and you're gonna pay a hefty price. That's how people lose their homes. Because they put everything on the line, because they want personal guarantees when the banks get lending. Even though it's for a limited company, they still take a personal guarantee of some sort, and therefore that's how people end up losing their homes, because they don't realise what the position they're getting into, but they don't actually minimise the downside of what they're doing. So if you don't minimise the downside, how do you know if it goes horribly wrong, what position you're going to be in if it does? And I think that's what helps you sleep at night, is the fact that if you play the downside and you think, well, I'm prepared to pay that price for the downside, then what you bothered about? You can sleep tight every night.
Yeah, no, definitely, that's a good point. With regards to like creating this right environment for your own success and things, we've covered obviously the people who could inspire you, and obviously double checking that information and that you're getting it from the right people. We're talking about next is about the negative side of things, the negative information, and not letting that, keep your blinkers on and what you're doing, and don't get distracted by negative influences. And I think it's really hard nowadays, because we have social media, and even a lot of people don't even watch the news anymore because it's so negative. But you've got a lot of outlets and platforms in your hand, basically on your phone every day, and a lot of people maybe surrounding you that, like you say, Jim, maybe want you to succeed, but not succeed above them. So there's these kind of negative influences and things that could hold you back. So how important is it? I mean, I'm sure you've come across it on your journey, and especially in the earlier years and things, where people would rather hold you back than see you successful. How important is it just to kind of, like I say, keep your blinkers on and keep your own success journey and your goals at the end of that, and what you want to achieve in mind, and just soldier on, basically?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head about the goals thing. Definitely, unless you have a vision about what you want to achieve, or somewhere you want to go, or somewhere you want to be, or something you want to have, or something that you need in your life, or some sort of internal motivation, you're just going to quit as soon as you get negative. It's the old adage, I remember we used to talk about a lot in network marketing. You could either get better, or quit. And that's what happens in most situations, where you start to see somebody complain, even in a job. You see it in people in their job as well, from day to day. I've seen it all throughout my life in jobs where I've been working in companies and that, where people start complaining about certain situations. And then I think to myself, yeah, you're probably on your way out. Or you're actually going to up your game and actually realize that it's you is the problem. It's no one else. It's not the company, it's you. It's how you perceive things, because everybody sees things in different ways. We could all look at the same picture, and you see it yourself when you post something so simple on social media, and then all of a sudden you get about 50 different types of answers for the same thing that you thought. I thought this was pretty simple, this answer. and everybody gives a different answer. It's weird.
It is weird. It's like you say on these forums and platforms, and people will put up a question, and then I think I look at them sometimes, and I don't always get involved, and I think I know the answer to that, and then you get about 10, 15 different answers, and you're like, none of them are even the right answer.
A good one recently, as I took a picture of I was down at Wembley, and I had the big banners up from the corporate landlord saying, rent your new home here, and actually Wembley Park. And they've got a whole lot of high rises for rent in Wembley Park with fantastic accommodation. So it said rent your home here, but then I took a picture of that and then I put it online, and I put it on the landlords forums like Landlord Tax, and I stuck it on. Where else did I stick it on? I stuck it on the Spin group. I stuck it on the Property Investors group, and then I stuck it on another couple of groups as well. And I tell you what, I expected it was something to do with: do you think the rise of the corporate landlords is going to affect the private rented sector like us? You know, people like us. But I tell you what, everybody had a different answer for that. And yeah, I thought somebody would come in and straight away and say, well, to be honest, there's a golden opportunity because they're going to do this, they're going to do that, and they would all agree with my way of thinking. But no, it was nothing like that at all. They never agreed with my way of thinking at all. They just came up with their other. Some people were really negative about it and said they're going to push us all out, and doom and gloom, and the world is over. And other people saw it as opportunities. And thought to themselves as like, they're going to raise the game, they're going to raise the rent for everybody else. As a result, we're going to get a bite of that as well. So we're all going to benefit in that context of that rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah.
Whereas I see it completely different from other people. I just see it as corporate landlords will focus on economies of scale. So places like London, Edinburgh, Glasgow, and that will be their mainstream income, but they'll never be able to compete with the small villages and towns because they'll never be able to do high-rise buildings and huge apartment blocks in these areas. So they'll not even go to these areas at all. And that leaves it for us.
It will definitely be predominantly, obviously, the built-up city areas. But you're absolutely right about these people. That it's like everybody's got so different opinions. But the whole pushing and all rising tides lift all ships is so important, because I think if you surround yourself with people that are positive thinking and willing to help each other, then that has a positive knock-on effect. And as soon as you include a few negative people or let them into your way of thinking, it'll just hold you back, and it definitely then pulls yourself and everybody around you down. So creating that circle of the positive people is definitely the right thing to do. Focusing on the positive things in your life as well, and the positive things and the positive people, because it is really easy to focus on the negative. It's so easy. People are kind of drawn to that. It's indoctored into us to be pulled to the negative and concentrate on that rather than the positive. And people kind of view the world. View of the world has a fundamental tendency to tilt towards the negative all the time, and we literally have to work so hard to see the upside on things, and you could find yourself really held back by that. And I'm sure you've seen it, and you've probably experienced it yourself, Jim, as well. How much a profound effect the negative things could have on you as opposed to the positive things, and you need to really change your mindset to get yourself on the right track.
It's easy to do that, though. It's easy. I wouldn't say it's easy to change your mindsets, but it's easy to get caught up in the negative. And you're sometimes not aware of what's actually happening, purely for the fact that it's maybe a combination of all the different events that happened to you at that point in time. So you end up getting dragged down a bit, and you get dragged down a bit more, and you get dragged down a bit more. And I'm talking about mentally. And you don't actually understand what's happening, and then it starts to reflect on you. Then you start to manifest it round about you, as a result of it. So you just need to be more conscious of yourself, more conscious of you. This is the whole thing about, if everybody worked on themselves to be the best version of them they could be, then therefore the world would probably be a better place.
Rather than worrying everyone else and things that have gone on around you, and just concentrating on yourself.
I tell you who did a great example of this recently was Dexy. Kevin Rowland, the Dexys Midnight Runners. He was on the stage, and he does a wee set with one of his singers, one of his lead singers, and about uninvited opinions. And his pal, gives his uninvited opinion of his situation. And this is what the song's all about. It's all about uninvited opinions. It's like, and then he says to his pal, it's like, but I didn't invite you to tell me your opinion. It was, I didn't ask you for your opinion. So why are you now deciding to volunteer your opinion and reflect it on me?
And people have a tendency to do that without even being prompted further opinion, they'll
Yeah.
just disappoint this opinion on you, and it could be a really negative and sometimes even toxic opinions. I mean, it could be. I mean, you could be in a toxic maybe relationship or have some toxic friends around you. You could even maybe be in a toxic working environment, and it can really be so detrimental to you and your own success. And you need to identify that and really close that off,
Yeah.
letting it get into your mind space, because it could really hold you back.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think the combination of cutting out the negative information and concentrating on the positive things in your life, and if you really, I mean, everybody's going to have struggles and things in their journey and parts of their life, which will obviously have an effect on you, is being able to process that properly and keep your focus on your goals and the positive things. And that's where it brings me to, obviously, really ultimately, to keep yourself focused and on a journey, you need to have your goals prioritized and stay focused on them. And that's one of the main things that, I mean, you and I have spoken about this recently, Jim, about my own goals and things as well, and how I need to really make them so much more clearer, and how I'm going to get there in the journey in order to achieve them. And it's the same for everybody else on their own journey as well.
Hmm. It's just focus. That's the most important thing for you. It's just all about having focus. And you know the classic example is show every time. Just stare at a certain thing on the wall and stare at that all the time, and keep staring at it every single time. Uh, and don't close your eyes, don't blink, and then after about maybe a couple of minutes, take your eyes away and focus on a blank wall, and I'll
Mhm.
bet you still see the outline and the shadow of that thing that you were focusing on.
Yeah,
And that shows you that's just like your goals. So when you take your eyes off your goals now and again, you've still got them in focus at some point in time in the background, and they still remind you of what you should be doing and what you should be achieving till you get yourself back on track again. That's
yeah.
kind of that's kind of where it is and where you should be, I would say.
Yeah, I think as well. Well, for me anyway, for like how productive you can be and how motivated you are is so connected. It's really strongly connected to the environment that you create for yourself around you, and whether
Yeah.
that's in your personal time or in your professional time, your actual physical surroundings. They could either benefit you or they could totally distract you and kill your motivation. I don't know whether you're studying, whether you're working, whether you're trying to build a business. But they could all easily be resolved by just obviously clearing your mind and having that positive environment around you. And I think, do you know,
Focus is everything. I mean, and you could have different goals at different points in times, and someday you could wake up and you think this is really what I want to do, and then after a period of time you think to yourself, actually, it's not what I want.
mhm,
I mean, the classic example is, things like, oh, I want a Lamborghini Huracan. And then when you can buy a Lamborghini Huracan for cash, it's like, oh, well, I could go out and buy a house. Or
yeah,
I could go out and buy more property and rent it, and I could make even more money to then buy another Huracan at some point in time in the future. But then you never do, because
no,
it's like every time I've got to that point where I thought I could lease a new car, because that's a classic for people that, how could I afford a Tesla? That's what a lot of people do. How did I afford this Tesla, and how did I afford a Porsche at the same time? And it's because they then go, and how did property get me that? Because I know this is a typical example about how people do it, and this is what I was in the first place. But every time I got to the point where I could afford the monthly costs with the money I was making out of the investments, the property investments I was getting, and I could
uh-huh,
afford the monthly cost to have these cars and just lease them, then I thought to myself, actually, I don't really want them, because I can't remember who said it, but he says your bum could only fit in one seat at a time.
yeah,
It's like you can only drive one car at a time. There's no point in having two or three. What you got them for, if that's the case? That's a really successful podcast I was listening to recently. I can't remember who the person was, but he was extremely successful in his field.
mhm,
And his dad used to say to him, but your ass can only fit on one seat. That's it, really. And I never thought about it like that. So unless you're holding a car as a commodity in order to trade it later on and make money out of it, because you've held on to it for so long, then why would you need two or three cars? What's the
yeah,
point? To waste your money? Probably. And it is a waste of money.
That's a waste
As
of
far
money.
as I'm concerned, you're buying a depreciating asset, it goes down every single time, and you're paying money towards actually having it all the time. And you can only drive one car at a time, so why would you need all of these cars?
Yeah. When you see all these big celebs and everything, and they've got driveways and garages filled with cars, obviously they've got copious amounts of wealth, and that's what they want to do as part of their enjoyment.
It's
But
stupidity, Richard. It's
still,
just
yeah,
stupidity. It's the fact that they've got so much money at one point in time, they've just got carried away with themselves, and
mhm,
they don't know what to do with the money, and it's just filling up in their bank all the time. So they run out and think, I think this will make me feel better by buying this flash car, and
yeah,
yeah, it'll make me feel better for a couple of months or a couple of weeks, and then after that, the honeymoon period's over, and it's like, why did I buy that? What a waste of
mhm,
money.
yeah,
And you often see them trading them and trading them in. Because when you go to these pawn shows, celebrity pawn shows, where they
yeah,
pawn their goods, you tend to see some of these celebrities coming in and they end up pawning their stuff in order to get money, in order to do something else. And I'm thinking, God, you've obviously spent all your money. You've got nothing left
yeah.
for
You
running
have to
costs.
sell these on, yeah,
It's crazy, eh? Absolutely crazy.
yeah,
And easy
yeah,
come, easy go is the expression. So if
mhm,
you've no worked for it, if you've not really worked for it and it's just come to you by chance, then more than likely you'll probably lose it pretty quick as well, because you've not learned the skills in order to keep it and keep investing it and keep developing it. You've not learned all these skills. You tend just to chop down the tree that bears the fruit because you don't understand that the tree has to be kept nurtured and looked after in order for it to bear fruit every single year for you.
yeah,
And it's only a small amount of fruit, as opposed to if you chop down the tree its entirety, you would actually reap a whole harvest all at once, but then you'd have nothing for the future.
yeah,
I think
yeah. And then
that's I think that's
once
the
you
thing
go
you've
through
got to
all
think
once
of.
you go through all that, you've nothing then to fall back on.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I think in regards to when we talk about creating this environment and a successful environment, and there was examples I had here about obviously having like, to clear your mind and have tidy workspaces and things, and just to kind of keep you that clear
Hmm.
mindset and focused. Like you said, focus is so important. Do you know? It reminds me. It puts me in mind of something my mum used to say all the time, and it was she used to always she used to do tidy house, tidy mind. Do you know when she had too much going on and things, she would tidy the
It's
house.
true. It's absolutely true. Tidy house, tidy mind. And when you look at somebody's desk, and then also when you look at somebody's appearance,
Uh-huh.
that tells you everything. This is why when people turn up in their casuals
Yeah.
for an interview, or they put something in, or they do a video for us, and then it's very casual, and it's like, well, wait a minute, and this is why I wear a shirt and tie when I go to
Yeah.
see a customer. I
Yeah.
think
Me
it's just
too.
a mark of respect, and it's tidy. Yeah, you can be tidy if you're in the casuals, but I just think it's maybe a bit too casual. You've
Hmm.
got a formal relationship you're trying to establish with a customer at the outset,
Yeah.
and I think it's just a mark of respect, turning up in your shirt and tie. I'm old school brigade, and you could say, well, oh, you're old school dinosaur. It's like,
Well, then no, because I wear my shirt and tie all the time.
but I'm not talking about you could say that. Somebody else can say that,
Yeah.
but I'll just question them right now and say, where are you? Oh, you're at your work. Uh, well, I'm walking along Little Venice on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
One of us must be right, and I've got a good chance. I've got a good chance of saying it could be me.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right, son. I think when your physical space and your physical appearance is clean and tidy and things, then you could work on like your emotional mind space because you don't have to worry about all that
Yeah,
taking up room. And it's like, you could have maybe clear your schedule, clear your desk, clear whatever, and it gives you that opportunity to then think, right, okay, I've got time to actually think about this now, rather than thinking about three things simultaneously,
mm,
or awful things simultaneously. And then that gives you the opportunity to really prioritize your goals and your desires and turn them into feasible things and manageable things that you could do without having all this extra noise.
yeah.
Hold,
It's a good reflection, Richard, of how people will manage their own lives.
yeah,
It's the same with your appearance. I mean, I know I know I keep saying it every single time, but when you've got the tenants and that, I usually typically say, what was their presentation like? What did they look like?
yeah.
How did they appear? What was their skin condition? Stuff. I mean, I know it sounds daft, but it's like, you could tell straight away. I mean, let's be honest, you could tell straight away if somebody's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
because of the way they look and the way they are, and they've basically got a row of condemned teeth, the
Yeah. I was
condemned
absolutely.
hues.
Yeah,
You
somebody's
know,
teeth's a big telltale
yeah,
sign.
and that's unfortunately that's the sort of thing, but it's a total giveaway, I would say, definitely as to their appearance, even though they come across in the right way and they say the right things. It's just a total giveaway. It's to be able to assess the situation, and I think that's again something you've got to reflect on when you meet the right people for the first time, or you think you've met the right people for the first time. And Drew actually says it there. First impressions are
First
a lasting
impressions are
impression.
last. Yeah.
Definitely, every single time. I would definitely say that is the case. First impressions count every single time. You get a true assessment of what somebody's really like. But there is an opportunity to make a second good first impression. If
Yeah,
the
we
first
spoke about this
impression,
before.
if
Yeah,
the first impression doesn't go right in the first place, there is an opportunity to backtrack on that and make good that situation, depending on what situation you've created in the first place. It didn't give that right first impression. I've done it before, lots of times, with customers where it's just never come across right in the first place, and then I've gone back to them and then I've rejigged the situation. I've had another conversation with them, and they've gone, "Yeah, you're definitely the person for the job."
yeah. Yeah, and yeah, you've always got the opportunity to turn that around as long as you do it properly. But then, do you know what this brings me to? And whether it's tenant selection or whether it's selecting somebody for work, or do you know,
Yeah.
at some point you're going to have to say no, and that's what a lot of people struggle with as well, as saying no to people.
Mm-hmm.
Just they end up just going along with it, even though they know it's not the right decision or the right thing that they should do or the right choice that they should make, and then they pay the price for it further down the line. So as difficult as saying no is, and I've been through it over the years and had to obviously learn myself that no has to be said in certain situations. To learn that skill and be able to do it quite confidently, knowing that it's in your best interest or whoever you're representing, and their best interest, the word no needs to be done, needs to be said sometimes. And unfortunately, it's maybe not always the most pleasant thing to do, but it needs to be done.
Yeah, I've done it myself loads throughout the year. I mean, obviously, I was asked and kicked out of school and basically asked to leave.
Yeah,
No really major form of qualifications. And on the ropes as homeless, unemployed. Uh, so these sort of things were reflective of where I was, and then I always thought to myself, well, let's give people a chance if that's the case.
yeah,
And by giving people a chance, I thought they would be like me. And if they were given a chance, they would end up, successful like me. As a result, not that I'm saying I'm successful, but I'm moderately successful. Let's be honest.
yeah.
Um, so I thought if I give somebody else the same chances and opportunities that I had, that they might actually, do that as well. But then I thought, God, Jim, you're just burning yourself out trying to convince yourself that people could change
Yeah.
when they're not ready at that point of readiness for change, I would say.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, and everybody is slightly different, and you sometimes obviously probably think when you're speaking to certain people that they're going to have the completely same drive as you and the same ethic as you, and obviously that's not always the case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, obviously, and then saying no is a big part of obviously your own success as well. But I think for us to kind of summarise what we're going through today, and the topic for today was creating that environment for success and those people who inspire you, the information that you're getting from people and making sure it's correct, and shutting out all the negative, focusing on the positive, and then really being focused and prioritizing your goals for your own success. But I mean, ultimately, your environment plays that huge role in your success. And the good news is that you could always change it. You could be more motivated, inspired, you could be more productive. You just really need to start with the information that you consume as correct and the people that you look up to and that you use as inspiration are right. And choose figures who inspire you to follow and then follow their lead. And I think that's a good way to round up what we've been talking about today, Jim.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't disagree with that at all. I think it is a case of finding the people that inspire you the most, and listening to them. You don't need to do exactly what they say, but
Yeah.
just what they say is an inspiration to you, which actually helps you from day to day and gives you that daily motivation to keep going at what you're actually doing at that point in time. So they don't actually need to be in your field at all.
Mhm.
Johan Hari, Nate Gabor, They're all in different fields of chemistry and psychology. Jordan Peterson as well. I've not listened to Jordan for a long time though.
Yeah.
But in the outset, he made sense in terms of the 12 secrets to success. I think that's he did something like that, and I thought, yeah, that actually makes absolute sense. So these are all different things you draw on and have inspiration on, in order to help you be inspired to go on to be successful in whatever field you want to do. And that's what keeps you going. That's what keeps that fire burning within you. Definitely. Yeah. It's the fire burning within you. It's the most important thing to you.
And always also as well, you'll recognize probably later, but obviously, I mean, Jim, you've made this clear in your journey that throughout your own life and your own experiences, you'll meet different people at different stages of your life that will help you excel at that time into your next stage. And then you'll probably meet somebody else that's maybe a wee bit more successful or specializes in different. And then, do you know, and they'll kind of propel you through these different stages. You just need to find those right people.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I think we'll round it up there today, Jim, unless you want to add anything else.
Perfect. No, I think you've said everything that needs to be said.
Yeah. No, that was good. And thanks for obviously joining us and sharing some of your own experiences and insights and things as well. Thanks to everyone who's listened. Angela, thanks for your comments, and Drew as well. TikTok actually cut off halfway through there, but thanks to the guys as well. And we'll be back next week as usual for the Wealth Creation Show. So we will see you then.